This conference will now be recorded.
So good morning, everybody. I hope you've been well.
Good morning.
So the issues status. If you'll recall, there has been an issues list, and in the past, if you've tried to use it, it's probably been difficult. So I reorganized it completely by type of issue. In addition, I put in an estimated time either required for studying, if studying is needed, and for making changes for each issue. In addition, for almost all issues, there is now a recommendation for what might be done in QIF 3.1 and what might be done in QIF 4.0. There are still a few issues that aren't clear enough to suggest a resolution. One major thing that happened recently is I got the version 0.8 draft from the model-based characteristics working group. That's almost 80 pages long. I haven't attempted to add proposed changes for model-based characteristics to the Excel issues list yet. There's a small appendix with a couple of explicit requests for changes in that document. But my impression is that there are many, many changes that will actually be needed. And I'm still hoping to get input from Cap Video. So that's the status of the list. Maybe let's take, actually. So the list has been divided by category. First category is technical changes that are needed with little or no effect on implementers or users. And there's 15 of those. There are straightforward changes needed to conform to Y14.5 or ISO GPS. And then there's a very large set, 38, of changes that aren't particularly big, but they seem to be needed. There are half a dozen large areas that are already in QIF that need improvement. 5 large important areas that aren't in QIF that QIF might want to enter. There's a couple of information technology issues. There are issues requiring further study and issues needing better description. So please review the recommendations that are on that list. These are my recommendations. Other people may know more than I do. Certainly there have to be people who know more than I do about several of the issues on the list. And if you have any recommendations, or if you have any changes to the recommendations, please make that known. I'm going to switch. Can you see the Excel window, or are you still seeing the PowerPoint window?
PowerPoint.
Okay. Stop sharing that. I'm going to switch to the So this is what the Excel spreadsheet looks like at this point. I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of that. There's a description of each issue, where the issue came from, the identifying number for the issue. A bunch of them came from QIF dev, a bunch came from QIF community, and a bunch came from elsewhere where I arbitrarily assigned a Q number. And for each issue, there's some notes, most of which I wrote. If somebody else wrote the notes, the person's name is put preceding the notes. There's a brief rationale for why that issue is there. There are one or two possible resolutions and recommendations for QIF 3.1 and QIF 4.0. Just to look at the very first issue to see how this matches up. The technical changes clarify that version means revision. That was put in by Daniel Campbell. It's QIF dev number 9A. Daniel put several subparts in QIF 9. We use version rather than revision because the first version isn't a revision.
Wait a second, but that's not the meaning of revision and version. Those are very different terms in change management, and we should not be changing that term around. A version is a combination of a revision and an iteration. A revision is usually a release level. So I'm happy to write that up and show you what the differences are, because that we should not be doing that.
Is this Mark?
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, send me an email, please.
Okay.
Or put notes into QIF dev. Great, we've got some comments already. Demonstrating that other people know more than I do about some of these issues. Then there's a possible resolution and how long it'll take. Sounds like Mark's resolution will take more than a day, probably a week. So that's what the Excel spreadsheet looks like. On the left, the category of issue is listed. So all the issues in the same category are listed together. So there's technical changes that should be made. Straightforward additions for conforming to ISO Y14.5, excuse me, ASME Y14.5 or ISO GPS. There's a bunch of not very extensive additions that seem needed. There are large and important areas in which QIF's done some work, but what QIF has needs significant improvement. There are new, large, and important areas that QIF might get into. There's a couple of information technology issues. There's issues requiring further study and issues that need a better description. So, are there any questions about the Excel spreadsheet before I go back to the PowerPoint? Okay.
Just one, Tom. It's Dave from Renishaw. Just to say, is your intention that we add notes and comments directly to this Excel spreadsheet, or would we send you a comment and leave you to do the actual updating?
It'd be better to send them to me. It's very difficult to get the spreadsheet to be coherent if a whole bunch of people are editing it.
Sure. Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
I was a bit late getting on. This is Curtis.
Hi,
When's
Curtis.
the latest spreadsheet going to be available for comments like that, or is it the old one that I'm assuming you've added to it?
Yeah. I just mentioned that I completely reorganized it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll put it on the website today.
Okay. Thank you.
It's today's version.
Hopefully you'll version control it so we know if we got the latest as people add to it. Over.
Well, the date is part of the name. So yes, there's version control. So I've started a requirements document, but until CapVidia lets us know what it wants, it's not going to be possible to finish that. But the document will focus on recommended changes to QIF, and the recommendations are based on what seems possible to do and what seems like it's worth doing. It's pretty simple. The next steps, got to hear from CapVidia. I would like to take a poll of DMSC members on preferring to go to version 3.1 or version 4.0. I think we'll need to wait for that poll. And I'd also like to take a poll on the importance of several of the major areas to DMSC member companies. This is going to be an investment kind of poll, unless there are objections. Where each member gets a pile of pseudo dollars, and each member can assign any number of dollars to any of the 7 areas. If anybody has comments on that sort of poll, let me know. And then, of course, I got to finish a requirement document in which I intend to put a Gantt chart and probably 4 to 6 concurrent activities, because a lot of the areas are pretty discrete and can be worked on separately.
Tom, about the poll that you're talking about, is the
Yeah.
idea for that? Are you saying like there are competing tickets that or items in the list of things to do, that there are things that are contradictory and competing, or do you just mean as a question of whether they should be done or not?
No, I don't think that there are things that are contradictory or competing. It's just that we can only do so much, and we ought to be doing that which the members think is most important. And one way of determining that is to see how they would invest their money if they had money. So that's the idea of the investment poll. Even where there are suggestions for what might be done, we're not going to be able to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, it seems like right now we're at the stage of basically inventorizing the big, huge list of things to do.
Yes.
Right? And then the next step would be to start diving into them and understanding. And actually, at this point, you're also assessing level of effort.
Yes, there's an amount of time estimated for each recommendation on the Excel spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're creating the sort of single inventory of all things that need to be done, along with a guess about the level of effort required to do it.
Yes, that's what.
And then from there, yeah, I mean, I guess we'd have to decide what to do. But I think you're right. I mean, as far as the poll or whatever, maybe we could wait until that list is complete and then decide how we want to tackle everything.
Yeah. Is that Daniel talking?
Yeah, this is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Well, I'm also hoping, this is Curtis, that as you look at the list, what is a candidate could be in a 3.1, knowing that a 4.0 could put everything in or most of it in. So I just want to understand, is there a potential for 3.1 with some backward compatibility capabilities to 3.0? That's the question. So it's not like, it could be both, 3.1 and then a 4.0. But if you're asking what to do next, I need to know that information. What is legitimate, a 3.1 with backward compatibility? And then what cannot be put into 3.1? So hopefully the spreadsheet will kind of at least indicate that. Over.
Yeah, the spreadsheet indicates a lot of that, but most of it is way down in the details, where you have to figure out what names you're going to use for things. In general, you can change the name of any type without breaking backwards compatibility, because type names don't appear in instance files. You can add optional elements without breaking compatibility. So there's a great deal that you can do. What you can't do is change the names of existing elements and attributes, and that would break the existing instance files.
It's not necessarily true that adding optional elements would not break things. It depends how the bindings are written. It could break things to find unexpected elements, I guess.
When you say bindings, you mean computer language bindings?
Yes, yeah, like the software implementation to read the data. If you had a 3.1 and you found an unexpected element, I think it's likely that it would, stop the file from being loaded.
Daniel, I think we're talking about loading a 3.0 file into source code generated for 3.1. The only change necessary being to change the version number attribute. Yeah, we don't expect to go the other way.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, the existing areas that need improvement. There's welding. We need a new working group for that. There were several people who wanted to have surface finish improved. And in addition to surface finish, there's surface coating. I think a single working group could deal with both of those. There's non-contact metrology. The non-contact metrology working group has already done a lot in that. And there are draft revisions of schemas for non-contact metrology. And then there's QIF plans. Now, in the Excel spreadsheet, and in my mind, I think we have to do these four. There are two other areas where we have done it a little bit, but we probably should do more, or might do more. One is failure modes and effects analysis. That's low priority in my mind, but other people may have a different opinion. And then there's process control data for specific industries. QIF already can handle the aerospace standard AS9102B, first article inspection report. But we could do a whole lot more for the automotive area. APQP, DPAP is the alphabet soup. We can already support the dimensional results of PPAP, but there's 17 other areas. So that's worth looking at. And then the new major areas that we might get into that people have mentioned in these meetings: gear metrology, additive manufacturing metrology, metrology for MEMS and microelectronics, the whole area of manufacturing, and then part and assembly tests beyond just size and shape, including functional tests. So that's everything that's been identified. And if you want to comment, you can use the QIF community issues, QIF dev issues. You can send me email. And I think that's all I have to say. Are there further questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, since you mentioned the GitHub there, is there a means or a way, and maybe Daniel knows, to add your spreadsheet capability in GitHub so you don't have to play configuration management with people's comments? I guess if you don't get very many comments, it doesn't matter, but just looking into that. Or Dan, I know Daniel's converted to the GitHub recently, so, or not recently, but for a while due to a lot of reasons. So, Dan, you have a comment on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that I think eventually, Tom, it would be good to move everything over to the issues list in GitHub and like create tickets there as a way of tracking all the work items, because we can categorize them, comment on them, have discussion on them, mark them as closed when they're implemented, mark them as rejected if we decide not to use them or not to implement them, things like that. And it's more of like it'd just be easier for we have like 40 people on the call or something today. There are going to be a bunch of people trying to collaborate on this asynchronously across the globe. So, but maybe we could talk about that later, Tom, because I don't know if you've used like some of these issue trackers, like ticketing systems before.
I did look through the issue tracking capability on GitHub, and it certainly looks like it should work well.
Mm-hmm.
It looks. My impression was it has everything that we need, and does allow for participation by a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. I mean, we could. Let's set up a call and we can talk about it.
I think all this can wait until we actually start building a new version of QIF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
The current effort is only a 12-week effort, of which there are, 3 weeks left. I will finish this project after the time expires, one way or another. But when we go on to the next step is kind of beyond what I've been asked to look at so far.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I think it's going to be renewed. And I think that was the plan, Thomas. Yeah, that we'd renew everything to keep it going, because it's definitely clear that it was not going to get done in 12 weeks, not even close. So, in fact, I would say that so far it's just pretty good progress in terms of really just inventorizing all of these things in this short amount of time. So.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else?
Would you like us to make comments in GitHub or on the spreadsheet, or send them to you directly, Tom? I'm kind of lost at this now. This is Mark.
Yeah, well, the current problem with GitHub is that a lot of these issues are not on GitHub. The other, and the second problem with GitHub is that there are two separate places you can put issues on GitHub. One is QIF dev and one is QIF community.
I think that's something that I think, yeah, that particular thing is, I think it's a thing that the board needs to have like a final discussion about, but I believe the idea is that they should all go on the dev issues list, which is a private issues list for DMSC members. And so people who want to have access to that, they need to be joining the DMSC.
That makes sense.
I'm happy to transcribe the Excel sheet into QIF dev.
Well, you might be right, Tom. It might not be necessary to do right away. I mean, you know, this might be good for this stage. I think we could see. I would say, yeah, Mark. I mean, if you have comments, just email them to Tom right now.
Perfect. Okay.
I would say though that this stage, the next stage, would be processing through each of the tickets and determining exactly what the solution is. Like this is more about stating the problem rather than stating the solution at this point.
Right.
And so, for example, the thing that you brought up about, you know, the revision and, you know, the use of revision and version and what those mean and stuff like that. I mean, that's actually, in some ways, you might think it's one of the simpler issues that's mentioned here, but even that one is going to take quite a bit of discussion.
I agree.
And so there's going to be a lot of discussion on each of these things. And it'll just be a slow matter of kind of working through each of the different tasks and coming up with the correct solution.
As far as the Excel spreadsheet, evidently the versions issue is a different beast than I thought it was. But there's about 20 of them that require very little thought. But there's another 70 that will need a lot of thought. Okay, I will put the PowerPoint and the latest version of the Excel spreadsheet up on the DMSC SharePoint site and put an easy to use link to it that Mark Thomas can distribute.
So is the intent that you would like us to look at it and then, like, if we make comments or write something in the cells and highlight them, or how do you want people to communicate back to you with that, so that it's easy for you to find and understand?
The easiest way for me probably would be just to identify the cell or cells you're talking about and write an email. If you prefer, feel free to download the Excel spreadsheet, make a copy of it, and mark it up.
Hey, Tom?
Yes.
There is a way to bulk upload issues into GitHub. I just pasted some links into chat. Uses an npm tool, but basically you just format it and then you can suck them in from a CSV file.
Is that Will?
Yeah, that's Will.
I will. Okay. When it comes to that, it'll be good to know what you're saying.
It's not that hard. It's just that they have a REST API on GitHub, and you can bulk jam stuff in there.
Okay.
There's even other languages, like npm.
If there's nothing further, I'll give you back the rest of the morning. And thank you all for joining, and I hope you will take the time to look through the Excel spreadsheet. It's big, so be prepared for that. think there are 106 issues. Thanks for your attention, everybody. And I will say goodbye.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom?
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, Tom?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yes, I was gonna say, would you, at some point, I can help you out with that if I have access to the repo to do some of the import.
Oh, okay.
It's up to you. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to push it on you, but
I'm not sure when that will be in the future, but
okay. Just basically take that spreadsheet and make it into a bunch of issues on GitHub. That's all.
yeah.
Okay. Tell me if you need help with it. We can figure it out from there.
Okay. Have you had time to look at that email I sent you and the example I sent you of putting QIF into MT Connect?
Yeah, I took a look at it actually. I was going to have some discussions with trying to find it now. I think Larry responded. I think I responded to that as well. There's also Mike Rogers. Yeah, I sent some stuff back to you regarding it. Some old documents that we had from like 03. I can't find the 03 write-up right now, but yeah, I did respond. Yeah, I think there's a couple of areas, as I said in my email, where we can harmonize around these two standards, and that's the observation of measurements. So taking the measurement result types, the characteristics and feature types from QIF, and turning those into MT-Connect observations, basically, some kind of measurement type in MT-Connect. And the other area, which is probably second priority, is resources. So that's going to be to harmonize the QIF resource or capabilities with MT-Connect. That's actually similar to what Larry wrote here. That's based on some conversations that we've been having. So, yeah, there it is. Yeah, so I put the 3 areas in there. So, if that makes sense, I mean, that's what I was going to queue up in the MT-Connect parse and process group in the next couple of meetings with Mike Rogers leading it now.
Okay. I'll hunt for what you sent me. I right now don't recall seeing it.
Yeah, I sent it. Oh, wait, that's Eric Holterman. I sent you just a response back. Let me CC you on this thing too. This is actually with Eric Holterman.
Okay.
Okay, let me CC you on this thing too. Okay. I'll add 2 attachments as well. Yeah, I forget who's on with it. Those 2 talk. That's kind of get Eric back spun up. Okay, I just sent you. There are a couple of old presentations. You can see the whole thread there that we've been talking about. It's basically the same conversation, just dug into a little more. A little more detail on some of the issues. Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to get this group going again, and then put together some easy wins for how to integrate. It's based a lot on some work that Larry and I did at DMSC in the O3 project to do in-process metrology using a machine tool, a probe, and it was AP242, AP238, QIF, and Empty Connect. So those 4 standards and harmonizing across the 4, and then coming up with a way to be able to represent the measurement data.
Alrighty, I will take a look.
Okay, sounds good. You can also, if you want to get involved, I can get you hooked into this. Oh, you are actually on one other mail that Larry sent out to the entire working group feedback list. So that's another one that I think Larry just sent out a little while ago with the MOU information. Did you get that?
I probably did. I'll have to check back through my email.
I sent to your Gmail account. I'm not sure which is the correct email account for you.
I have 2 email accounts that people can use for QIF. Well, I'm using both of them, but for issue things in QIF, I'm preferring to have Tom R. Kramer 2 at gmail.com.
Okay, I think I just sent to the wrong email address.
But either one works.
Then there's an AOL.
Yeah, the other one is Tom R. Kramer at AOL.com.
Yeah, that's one I think I just
Either one's
used.
fine.
Okay, that's good. That works. Okay, then you should have some additional docs from me. That's just 2 presentations from before, and yeah, go through them whenever you want.
Okay.
We could talk about that later. I mean, once you kind of review some of that, I'm trying to draw the threads together between the Empty Connect discussions, the QIF, and the what is it, CCAM stuff that's going on in parallel. So if that ever makes sense, it'd be great. Get all that stuff hooked up.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Talk to you another time.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right, Tom, do you want me to shut this down?